Alright, so today we're trying to get a bunch of conduit run underneath here for today. We've got to get, you can see I got it here, and this conduit is going to carry the electric that runs to the front. So on each side, just to give you kind of a basic idea of what I'm doing here, the console will be mounted kind of right in the center right here. It's going to overhang this cross member by enough that all of our electric, we've got the electric for the power trim, all the controls for the motor, we're going to have our steering cable for the motor, as well as all of the wires that have to run all the lights. So we're going to have the 6 lights on this side, 6 lights on that side, 4 lights to the rear, and 4 lights to the front, as well as our red and green bow lights, and then our white rear light that we're required to have. All of that is going to have all the wiring run through this conduit. So the basic setup is we're going to have one piece come over this way that's going to have all of the conduit for, or all the wire for everything on this side of the boat, as well as 2 of the rear lights and 2 of the front lights, because I've got a gap at the front and back of my light rail system. So there's going to be a gate on the rear so you can access the motor. The front's just going to be open in the center for the trolling motor. So I can't run the wires straight across the top of the pipe like I'm going to do on the sides. So I've got to run the conduit a separate circuit for each one that'll be tied together underneath the console, and then the power leads will come out. So what I'm doing, like I said, I'm going to have this 1/2-inch conduit is going to be running this way up this side, and then we're going to have a 1/2-inch conduit on the other side, as well as a 3/4 on the other side. And the 3/4 on the left side of the boat over there is going to be for the trolling motor cord, because the trolling motor, the short cable on it, we're going to cut that, put a plug up there so that way I can plug the trolling motor in and unplug it as needed. And I'll be able to plug it in at the front and run the extension cable to the batteries, because all 3 batteries that I have will be in the console back here. They're going to be mounted inside there. So like I said, I got to get this conduit run on each side prior to actually putting the deck on, because it's going to be a lot easier to work without the deck on. So that's what I'm doing right now. I've got some spacers set up here because of the lip on the inside. Put the camera down. So you can see this lip right here. I set up these spacers so that way when they're up against it, there's little to no lip. And that'll just give me a nicer attach point for the conduit. So this has got it. This conduit here is going to get run all the way down. You have this T-box because right here is where it's got to come up through the deck to start feeding the lights. So that's where we're at. And you can stand by while I work on this. Alright, so there we go. That's all run. I just got to cut this off. Like I said, I'm going to do it so it's about flush with what I got on the other side, which is about here. It's probably a little extra, but actually let's cut it off back about the center. Probably a little bit of extra, but it'll be okay. Alright, I'm going to pause it for now, and I'll pick it back up here in a minute. Yeah. Alright, so we are putting some supports in for a couple things. We've got the angle is going to be for the trolling motor mount, and these square tubes are going in So we're working on one here. There's gonna be one between that and the trolling motor.
What the heck?
And this will all be set up to help support it for pulling on the bow eyes, as well as where the contacts are going to be for the stop points on the trailer. So we're getting these supports put in place now. All right.
Ready to rip.
Sounds good. Ran out of gas for the welder, so we're going to get the plywood cut, so that way we can actually have the plywood set to what we need. So here goes first cut. Alright guys, so we got a good bit of work done on this thing so far. It's been a pretty long process, but I'll show you where we're at. You've seen a bunch of stuff, but we're just going to do a quick recap as to what we've done and get ready for today's work. So as you can see, we got all the plywood cut and laid out. Underneath, we're still working on some stuff underneath, so we've got these braces, one there, there's over here, this one still has to be actually attached, but we've got this brace, another brace here, and one brace here to put in, and those are for up here. We're going to have our bow eyes. We're going to have one on each side, so that way we can pull around the trolling motor mount and we don't have to hit that. And then these braces are here for right where our front stops are going to stop on the trailer, so when you pull the boat up tight and it's pushing on the trailer, there'll be some extra bracing there, just so that way there's no risk in crushing anything. But as you see, what we've done with all the cross members, got all brand new cross members at this point. We're working on this bracing. We added this front cross member here. We're going to put a little extra bracing on this. Those welds are not very good. That was when we were still kind of learning how to weld. We've gotten a lot better now, but those welds will hold. So we're going to get this thing finished braced today. I'm going to work on that, get those braces. There's some braces that are going in the back underneath of where the console is going to be. You'll see me put those in today. And then I got a couple pieces of conduit to run to the back that I got to throw in there. That'll be a quick job. And once that's all done, we'll be starting to paint the wood. So what we're doing with the plywood here, one side's going to get painted. This side that's up, I'm going to clean it up, and we're going to paint that with a primer, and then 2 coats of an exterior oil-based paint to seal it. So that way when it's upside down, it's got water splashing against it, will be good. As you can see here, this is our console frame. That's going to be the base frame that'll get bolted down to the deck, and the 2 supports that we're going to put underneath. So there'll be another piece of angle aluminum between the, you can see this crack here, so you've got a cross member and the other cross members right here. So there'll be, underneath will be another piece of aluminum that this will actually get bolted to, that'll be welded to the 2 cross members. So that way you'll be able to bolt it into cross members back here, all the way across the back and up the side. And then this will be the only area that's not actually bolted to a cross member, this front one. But that's not going to be a big deal because it'll be bolted to all the other ones. That'll also add a lot of extra support because we're going to have all 3 batteries and a lot of electronics under here. So we want some good support to make sure that that's not going to have any issues, because there's going to be a fair amount of weight in batteries. And then as you can see, we do have our hydraulic trim and tilt here. So that's fully mounted, ready to go. And the motor gets mounted there once we're set. But everything's good on the transom. We still got to build our shelves back here. That'll be one of the last things we actually do, will be to build our 2 little shelves back here. But as for now, that's where we're at. So I'm going to go ahead and get rolling on this. I got to move back that first piece of plywood. And I'm going to get the last 3 supports up here welded in place. Once those are welded in place, I'll be moving back. I'm going to have to move these last 2 sheets of plywood back here so I can weld this piece in. And once that piece is, those 2 pieces are welded in, we're going to be, well, like I said, I got to do the last piece of conduit, because you can see all the conduit pipes coming out here. All of these are going to be running to the console there. So there's going to be a 3/4 inch box that's going to attach right here where the sweeps are going to come down and come out. So that'll get put in place shortly. I just got to run the conduit that's going to run back to right here, so that way this will feed the lights that are going to be in this back corner, and then same on the other side to feed the lights on that back corner. So that'll be a quick job, because like I said, it's just 2 little attach points on here and we'll be set. So I'm going to go ahead and get this thing back on the tripod, and we're going to keep rolling. Take this thing off, you can kind of check out what we got here. So we've got all this bracing here has purpose, as I said earlier. These 2 pieces are where the trolley motor is going to sit. So that's dead center on the boat. Trolley motor will drop in right here, and it's going to get bolted through a aluminum plate on top of the wood, and then down into these cross members as well as this. So that'll give the trolley motor real good support. It won't be pulling on the wood, it'll actually be pulling on the frame. And then down here, this outermost one, this is where our contact point is going to be for the stop point on the trailer. So we wanted to give it a little extra bracing there, so that way there's no risk in any flex. There shouldn't be, but just to give it some extra bracing. Plus it'll also assist with this brace here, which is where our bow eyes are going to be. So we're going to have, I'm going to put a big U-bolt for a bow eye that'll span either side of this brace and either side of this brace here. And what that'll do is when you're pulling on the bow eye, it'll actually be now pulling on the second cross member as well, plus the plywood and everything else. So you're going to have a lot more strength when you're pulling on that bow eye. And then like I said, the same thing on this over here. This will be the outermost contact point on the right. So we have 2 contact points real wide on the pontoon boat, and then your bow eye will be here, and your trolling motor is going to stick off the front. It sticks off a bit for the mount, so that's why we got to put the bow eyes way out to the side and bring our contact points out wide. So that's all going to be welded and built onto the trailer once we get that brought around and do the work we got to do to that. So still have a fair amount of work to do ahead of me, because it's not just the boat. We got a bit to do on the trailer, clean it up, repaint it, and a few little modifications we're doing it, plus rewiring it. So that's where we're at. I'm going to pause this for a sec while I get reset, and I got to reset to do the cross members, or weld the supports that'll be between the cross members for up front right there at the, or actually that's to the back of the boat, but for the console. So I'll be right back with you here. Alright, so I got my 2 cross members made. It took me a few minutes, but I got them made up. They're kind of in place. I've got to bevel some edges, and once those edges are beveled, time to weld them in place. Alright, so there's some extra bracing that's going to be on there for the center console there, so that'll work real nice, give us a little extra strength, something to bolt through other than wood. And that's all the welding I had to do today. So now that we got that done, let me kill the welder and I'll show you what we're doing next. Alright, so like I said, we're done with the welder for today here. So the next thing I gotta do, I'm gonna come back here. Like I said, I gotta run the rest of this conduit straight back. So I've got to drill in the back corner there. I gotta get a hole big enough to get a 1/2 inch pipe through it. So that way I can bring my box back, and I'll have one of these conduit bodies. And this conduit body is gonna come back. It'll be on the inside, and I gotta punch this tab through there. So it's gonna be sitting just like this, allowing for the wires to come out and up to this corner right here to come up, and that'll run up this leg to feed the lights in the back. So one of those has to go on each side. So that's what I'm doing next here. So I'm gonna pause this while I clean up some of this stuff, and then I'll turn it back on once I'm working again. You can see where that piece is sticking out there, so that's where the lights will come. I'll have to come out with a 90 and go up, and that'll run the lights for the 2 rear lights right above that, as well as I think I'm going to bring the white light for the white marker light back there as well. And then the other side's getting the exact same setup, so don't really need to record that. You kind of saw the process, so I'm just going to stop this here. I'm going to knock out that side real quick. Alright, so I got everything cleaned up. I got the deck swept off, and this is actually what you're looking at is actually going to be the bottom side. So what I'm doing is painting the bottom side with an oil-based exterior paint to help seal it, so that way the water splash underneath isn't just going to soak into the wood. So right now I'm going to get the primer on. You can kind of see the blue lines there. I taped all the seams that are going to be against each other, so that way there's no paint there when we go to glue all the seams together. So I'm going to go ahead, kick my shoes off so I don't get more junk on there, because everything's wet and there's dust everywhere and ground aluminum. So I'm going to kick my shoes off and start at the back end of the boat. I'm just going to work forward and get this whole thing painted. So enjoy the time lapse. Alright, there we go. Second coat's on, final coat. That first coat looked like it did a really good job, so this coat filled in any little spots that were missed and got looks like a really good coat on there. So I'm gonna get this stuff cleaned up, kick the dehumidifier back on, and pick this thing up tomorrow, where we will be attaching the deck down finally. Okay, so today's install the deck day. So first thing we got to do is cut our groove, because we're going to put a tongue on the end. So time to get the face shield and got the router set up, and we'll get rolling on this. All right, we'll pick this thing up tomorrow when we do the floor, but there you go. Deck
Ben, how
is
much
on.
gap is underneath that front right now?
All right, so yesterday we got the whole deck on here. It's all attached and down for the center points. The edges are going to get attached once we build the light rail system, because the light rail is going to get mounted directly to the 3/16 3x3 angle that we're going to run all the way around. So once we build the light system and we drop those on, that's when the corners and stuff will actually get attached down to these edges. But till then, it's where it's at. Today, we're going to try to get the floor on. We're putting a diamond plate floor. It's over here. It's actually a vinyl, but it's basically a rubber diamond plate floor. It's going to be completely waterproof, and it'll seal the boat off real nice. So that's the goal for today, is to get that glued down, and then that'll give it a few days, because I won't really be able to do a whole lot on the boat. Tomorrow I'll have a day off, but then I got 2 days of day shift where I'll be working all day, and I'm not going to really do anything with the boat. So it's going to work out great if we can get the floor down today. And then tomorrow we'll probably do some work on the motor for my day off, followed by 2 days of work. And then once I come back from that, we'll be starting to construct the lights. So that's going to be a cool part. That's you know, the meat and potatoes of the bow fishing boat is your lights. So once we get that going, will be good. So today's goal, I said, get the diamond plate floor down, and then these 4 pieces of aluminum here that are cut, those are going to make up the base of our console. So I need to get that welded together as soon as my dad gets here. The console is going to sit right back in here, and we want to get that in place. We're going to pre-drill it, and we're going to pre-drill our holes back here right behind this cross member for all the holes that need to go down through. So we're going to have one larger hole in the center, and that's going to feed all the control cables, the power cables, everything for the motor, as well as the trolling motor battery cable, power cable is going to come out of there and run up to the front. And then we're going to have 2 smaller holes that are little 3/4 holes. They're going to be for the 3/4 conduit that's going to run all the electric wires over to the conduit that I ran down here. So that's the plan for today. We got to pre-drill those holes and lay out the vinyl, let that set, and then we'll be able to cut down through and actually fold the vinyl down to help seal that hole a little bit. So I'm going to set this up. I'm going to start doing some prep work on the deck while I wait for a second hand to weld the base together. But for now, I'm going to do some prep work. There's a few high spots, like this little spot that got boogered right here when we were trying to hammer everything together. So I'm going to go through and just sand some of that down. Check all the holes. I got to sand around the holes to get all the splinters off. And then this deck will be ready to go. I'll probably vacuum it off real good. That way it's good and ready to go for gluing down the vinyl today. So I'm going to set this on the tripod and do some work. Alright, so we're going to get this welded up here. This is the base to our center console, so there's our center console.
Is it a square? Right?
Yeah. Yep, so there's our center console piece. And now we're going to put that in place over here, so that way we can mark it out, and we're going to drill our holes for all of the
Might as well
controls.
drill these too, because that way we can get all the aluminum
Yeah.
cleaned up, and then we just got to punch through the rubber.
Yep, we'll drill everything. So, alright, so now we're going to get this thing lined up in place, and we're going to get some holes drilled for both mounting the unit and for running all of our controls and electric wires down underneath. Alright, so we've done everything we need to do for today prior to putting the glue on. So next step, we're gluing on the diamond plate floor. Alright, so we got the floor all down. It came out really good. We got some stuff to keep the front edge down and the back edge. The sides seem to be staying on pretty good, but right now we gotta wait a couple days. So my plan for tomorrow is either work on the motor or I'm gonna work on building my center console. So we'll see what happens, see how I'm feeling when I wake up, but this is kind of how it's going to be. You'll have your center console be there, and this box is going to get attached to the console actually, and that'll be a storage box, and then you'll have all that space in the front. It's just open space. So I'm super excited to get some more work done. Right now we're just at a pause point until I can wait for this stuff to cure. By Friday, it's currently Monday, on Friday I should be starting to do all the welding on our light rails to run around the edge. So with any luck we'll get that done Friday and get them all ready to attach. Saturday morning I can get them attached, and once they're attached I can get my console put on here and get that attached. So if I build that tomorrow, then we'll be looking pretty good, because once all that's attached then I'll be able to actually start my wiring. So I'm hoping by the end of the weekend, if not my next days off next week, I should be starting to do all the wiring. So we'll see how it goes, but that's where we're at for now.